timer. She even cut off her best friend a little while ago. So you got to be real careful with her when she's had enough of us. She'll end this thing when she's heard enough. Judge Steele and Judge Chin, we resolved one thing yesterday with this team, and there's still one lingering question that we may not know about for a while. We've once again established that Wauwatosa West is far superior to Wauwatosa East, especially in so many different ways, but in this competition as well. Justin, Leah, I think that's pretty clear, don't y'all? We've made that pretty straight. East had a good team, but we know who won the state championship. And still, the thing that's unresolved is Chad had Lindsay to read at he and his wife's wedding. And that raised the question with Joe Stewart. Joe is researching all day now whether Chad is actually legally married or not. And we may not know that until Joe gets through checking all this out. Lindsay had some thoughts on that last night, Chad. I'll tell you about it. I see the ring, so it must be okay. I'm Mike Miles from Birmingham, Alabama, and we're old friends. I've gotten to see you a number of times at the state level and here, and you earned this spot today. You were wonderful over the weekend, and you earned the right to be here today.
Thank you.
We're delighted to see you. Let me introduce a remarkable federal judge, Judge Candida Steele, and let her say good morning to you.
Good morning. My name is Candida Steele, and I'm retired now, but I was a judge on the U.S. Civilian Board of Contract Appeals. I handled federal government contract disputes around the country. And thanks to Marcy, I've been in this program for 20 years now.
Judge Chin.
Good morning, Wisconsin. My name is Gus Chin. I'm a municipal judge from Utah.
He's at it. Chad, was that in the background at the school? Was that something over the... I couldn't hear it. I don't know what that was. All right, let's see. Let's go to work. Tell us who you are. We'll let y'all work a little while. Introduce yourselves to us.
Hi, we're Unit 4, and we're all juniors at Wauwatosa West High School, and we are the Wisconsin State We the People champions.
You are.
We're here on behalf of our teaching assistants, mentors, and teacher, Mr. Chad Mateski. I'm Andrea Justin.
I'm Sarah Anderson.
I'm Justin Schmidt.
I'm Leah Viorgo.
I'm Serena Stern.
And I'm Olivia Smith.
Nice to meet you all. And when this is over, Justin, I want you to tell me how you managed to get on this panel. That was good. That's a pretty good job. I know you know this question by heart, but this hearing is probably going to go viral by the end of the day. So I'll read the question quickly so everybody will know what y'all were talking about. This is question 2. We're going to do question 2 today on investigative power. Let's see. George Mason made a quote at the Philadelphia Convention, and this question revolves around his quote. Members of Congress are not only legislators, but they, quote, are also inquisitorial and should meet frequently to inspect the conduct of the public officers, unquote. How effectively do you believe Congress has used its investigatory power? Explain the differences, if any, between Congress's power to investigate and the power of oversight. Which power, in your opinion, is more significant? And how effectively do you believe Congress has used its oversight powers? If you can do that in 4 minutes, we will be very impressed. You ready to go? Take over.
In Watkins v. U.S., Justice Harlan stated, "The power of the Congress to conduct investigations in the legislative process is inherent. It probes into the departments of federal government to expose corruption, inefficiency, or waste. Congress's power of investigation is important because it allows for proper legislation to be passed and to hold the executive branch accountable for their actions in administering laws."
Congress has used its investigatory powers both effectively and ineffectively. An investigation is conducted when there is suspected maladministration, a concern that laws are not being followed, or that any government official is exceeding their constitutional authority. A problem arises when an investigation is conducted for purely partisan reasons rather than for legitimate purposes. As seen in Senator McCarthy's hearings, investigations can be ineffective when party politics outshine legislative action. Additionally, investigations such as the one conducted into Operation Fast and Furious have been unsuccessful due to subpoenas. These writs can end in lengthy legal disputes and disagreements between the branches when someone refuses to comply.
Though congressional investigations are not always effective, they have at times met their intended purpose of protecting citizens and exposing malfunctioning governments. The investigation of FDR's National Defense Program, when the Truman Committee investigated military spending and contracts, they uncovered misuse and waste of military finances. Since the committee was efficient and bipartisan, the Senate made it a permanent subcommittee. Another effective use of Congress's investigatory power occurred in 1975 when the Church Committee uncovered abuses of power within the U.S. intelligence agencies like the CIA, FBI, and NSA. The committee found procedural abuses, spying on citizens, unwarranted searches, and other illegal activity, leading to the creation of a permanent oversight committee and the Foreign Intelligence Service Act to curb these abuses.
While the power to oversee and investigate overlap, oversight occurs to ensure policies in place are adhered to and carried out in accordance with the law by the executive branch. Congressional oversight monitors and validates administrative agencies, which Congress has the ability to do because they delegated this power to the executive. Investigations differ from oversight because investigations involve in-depth analysis and hearings, while oversight may simply involve requesting data or documents from the executive.
We believe investigations are more significant because they can lead to concrete reform, such as the Federal Cigarette Labeling Act or the creation of the Food and Drug Administration that resulted in necessary legislation and increased oversight. Additionally, investigations can lead to media coverage, which informs the public and ensures Congress is held accountable to fix the issue at hand. The investigation into the tobacco industry tainted the public's viewpoint on smoking because of the release of documents regarding the health effects of it. Even though investigations are more significant, both powers are essential to the functioning of legislative checks and balances.
Congressional oversight can miss problems, resulting in the need for investigations. Investigations need to occur because the agency was not overseen correctly in the first place. Congress should increase its oversight of the 454 administrative agencies so that investigations of the agencies could become unnecessary. In 2014, the Department of Veterans Affairs claimed that they needed $3 billion to keep veterans hospitals open across the country. Careful oversight could have prevented this maladministration, and yet the ever-growing number of administrative agencies that puts more strain on legislative oversight.
Additionally, corporations and interest groups affect the amount of oversight they receive by supporting and paying congresspeople through funding their initiatives. The 2014 spending bill included benefits for the financial industry and relief reportedly written by lobbyists for Citigroup.
President Woodrow Wilson said, "It is the proper duty of a representative body to look diligently into every affair of government. Though this is the intended use of congressional oversight, there are many factors that prove it to be less effective than originally designed." Thank you. This concludes our statement, and we are now ready for your follow-up.
Well, actually, thank you. That was terrific. That was a great essay. Judge Steele, I don't want to anticipate what question you would want to ask at this
Go
point.
for
No, I was going to say, no, ma'am. I was going to say the last question you asked in the last hearing might be a relevant one now in light of.
Okay, I'll go ahead and ask that. What powers, if any, has Congress ceded to the executive and judicial branches?
Congress has delegated some legislative power to the executive branch through the creation of administrative agencies. There is a large number of administrative agencies, and they continue to grow every single day. And it is Congress's responsibility to oversee these administrative agencies to avoid any abuses of this legislative action. As we say in our statement, of course, they have the power of oversight, and one way they've delegated this oversight through the executive is through the creation of inspectors general, created in the Inspectors General Act of 1978. And these inspectors general have overseen many executive agencies. An example would be Michael Horowitz in 2016 oversaw abuses in the Federal Bureau of Investigation relating to FISA.
Thank you. Judge Chin.
Thank you. You mentioned one of the problems with the investigative process is the subpoena power. Given this quasi-judicial authority, do you believe Congress has effectively utilized its subpoena power, particularly where it has the power of contempt?
I do not believe that Congress has used this effectively or have the possibility to use this effectively, as the use of executive privilege has been has struggled with getting that power to be checked. President Trump had used this he had claimed executive privilege on a subpoena issued on his tax reforms.
Additionally, in the past, Congress could, when Congress held people in contempt of Congress, they would be imprisoned, whereas now they just have a fine and there needs to be a vote to hold people in contempt of Congress, which doesn't happen that frequently. And as Eric Holder was held in contempt of Congress, there wasn't much to come out of the contempt holding.
To expand on my colleague's comment on President Trump's issuing of executive privilege, this court case was seen in Trump v. Marzar. And additionally, in the court case Anderson v. Dunn, they ruled that people are able to be held to the contempt of Congress.
I really appreciated Judge Chen's question, and I appreciated your response to it. Congress has another power besides contempt, and that's the power of the purse. If an agency like the FDA, for instance, that's designed to keep our food safe and protect the people that grow it, were to ignore a subpoena, should the Congress cut off money to a certain extent to compel them to attend, or is that too strong and too harmful or too disproportionate a response?
Under Article 1, Section 7 of the Constitution, they are given the power of the purse, as you stated. And I think that this is very important. For example, in the past, Congress has issued or has stopped appropriation to one such administrative agency, the House Committee on Urban Development, and they stopped the billing to this committee because they were using their money to go to different conferences across the country. So they reined in their power by stopping appropriations to that committee.
I'd like to clarify my colleague's statement. This was the Department on Housing and Urban Development in the cabinet. And so while not because of subpoena power, I do believe that this power is important to be used, and Congress should use appropriations to hold people rather than holding people in contempt of Congress. They can withhold funds because money runs everything in Congress. And if they withhold that, they can really get what they want in the end.
Andrea, that's the understatement of all time, that money runs the train. Olivia, I think you're up if you want to.
Though the power of the purse is important, it can also be detrimental because of things like lobbyists. By supporting certain members of Congress and committees, they can almost kiss their butt to just try and get funding for their initiatives, which is not okay.
I believe that taking
Justin,
funding.
last word on this. Go ahead.
I believe that taking funding away in the power of the purse can be used arbitrarily to get what Congress wants, but not necessarily what is the best. This can be seen in the case South Dakota v. Dole, where Congress wanted a national drinking age of 18, but they wanted it at 21, but South Dakota had it at the age of 18. So they took away interstate funding and infrastructure funding only to get that agenda passed.
I think in Alabama, Justin, the drinking age is 14, but I'm not.
So to what extent do you think partisanship has been influencing congressional investigations at the moment? You talked about problems where the investigation were run by party.
Well, very, just the way that committee staffs are built on a 2/3 majority party and a 1/3 minority party, just the whole setup of congressional committees can detriment the partisanship of the investigations and therefore have effect on their outcome. As we see in Abraham Lincoln's investigation for the Joint Committee Conduct of War, many radical Republicans did not agree with what he was doing by helping African Americans, and therefore were trying to investigate his way of going about the war.
Additionally, in the Russia collusion investigation in 2016, parties were very divided, and there were two separate investigations going on one was investigating Russia collusion and the other one was investigating that investigation. And it was on the news pretty much every night. And people who identified and aligned themselves with either the Democrat or Republican Party would just tend to blindly agree and would not be necessarily informed, and there was just a lot of grandstanding going on with this investigation.
What do you do to resolve that problem of grandstanding?
Proposal that
what can Congress do about it?
A proposal that I would make would be to have one member of the opposing party sign off on the investigation. If it's, for example, if the investigation is proposed by the Democrats, at least one Republican on the committee would have to vote on with it. And that would ensure that there isn't just a wild goose chase to find something wrong with, for example, the president, because in President Bill Clinton's first 2 years of his presidency, there were no investigations because the Democrat-controlled Congress didn't investigate him, while in the next 2 years, when the Republicans controlled the Congress, there were thousands of investigations into him.
What we could do is completely abolish the two-party system, as this can greatly be seen to affect congressional investigations, such as President Trump's second impeachment, where it was almost voted across party lines. And President Trump wasn't even president anymore when these articles of impeachment was brought to Congress, which would be violating the Constitution, as Article 2, Section 4 states that impeachment can only be brought up to presidents, vice presidents, and government officials in offices.
If I may, let me jump in with a question, given what you've just said. Wouldn't eliminating both parties create more chaos? And would it not be more effective to have a non-partisan group oversee these committees and commissions?
George Washington stated that he did not even believe in political parties during the founding. And so I align myself with him that we do not need political parties to have a great nation and can actually thrive without them.
Additionally, with coming back to the main question on oversight, there are outside government organizations dedicated to oversight of the government, such as the Pogo investigation and the Lugar Center, I believe. So this proves that parties are not essential for Congress.
I think that it would be unrealistic to even propose a group of people to oversee these parties that are non-partisan. The judicial branch is supposed to be bipartisan, and we still see politics take place in that branch. And so I think proposing something more like they create committees within Congress and create a more even split between the parties in the creation of committees, this would prevent more party politics getting involved within investigations and oversight.
More oversight of the parties occurs with average citizens and the Freedom of Information Act, because they can make a request through this act to see what the parties and the federal government as a whole are doing. And this has been used to uncover many secrets, such as that the US narrowly escaped detonating a hydrogen bomb over North Carolina.
Ooh.
Time. Great job.
Please fill us in on that a little bit more.
That little jewel right there. There's some people that probably wish that had happened, Serena, but I'm not one. I assure you of that. Marcy, I'm so glad you held that. I saw the sign in your hand and you were leaning forward, but I'm so glad you held it until Serena finished. Wow, that was so much fun. Judge Chin, can you take them on a minute? What do you think about it?
Lovely, thank you. Very well done. In response to my last question, I was not thinking of the independence of judiciary, but a non-political group of citizens formulating that. So good point on the judiciary, though, because we do need an independent judiciary. Very lovely responses, good authority, good examples. I appreciate the fact that you gave us some examples reaching back in time to the Lincoln era and bring us back current to the Russian investigation. I thought that you had some good examples of how things could be done, and I trust that given what you have shared with us today, that you will use this opportunity with the civic knowledge that you've gained to effectively bring about the changes that will make our country much better and a brighter future for your generation and the generation that follows you. So very well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, those are words to live by right there. Judge Steele.
I thought that was a wonderful presentation, especially with you starting out at the beginning talking about problems that happen when the investigations committee, when party reasons cause political problems with the investigations. I especially appreciated you bringing up the church committee, smoking regulation, and especially the inspector general. That was a very good point to make. You did a really lovely job. Thank you. It was a real pleasure talking with you. And as Judge Shin said, we all hope that you will go on and take care of the government for us. We'll feel much better when you all are in charge, I must say. Thank you.
Thank you.
How soon can you get there? We're ready for you to
That's
take
right.
over
That's right.
right away. 3 observations lightning fast so Marcy doesn't pull us all off the stage real quick. Number one, I've been referring to Mo Brooks all day. He's from my state. He's somebody that ought to be investigated. Well, in my opinion, the ultimate example of abuse of the investigative power was Joe McCarthy. And he was from your state, and you're the first one all day that brought him up. That takes courage to do that. And you did it. He belonged to your forebears. And to bring him up is the ultimate example, and we appreciate doing that. Justin, if you ever figure out a way to do away with the 2-party system, call me. I'd be interested in how you did that. I think that's going to be tough. One more observation and then a parting word. I think the most important word to me, Judge Chin and Judge Steele may have different views. I think the most important word in the We the People competition is the word because. You can tell us what opinion you have, or you can tell us what somebody's doing. But if you follow it with the word because, and then you finish your sentence, that shows that you weren't just reciting off an example, you knew how it applied. And I think I heard the word because today 12 or 14 times. I wasn't counting because I was more listening to what you were saying, but you used it over and over. That's just a great word to use in this. The final thing is, and we commented on this yesterday with Unit 3, it's the first time that I had seen the use of I want to go next. You know, when you're there at the table together